Well, video 4 from 1 Samuel I've titled Bad Lessons in Leadership. I know you would have expected what are some lessons in leadership, but I thought there's some really bad lessons in leadership that we can learn from that actually help us to become good leaders. And at this point in the book, and you need to read it because there's just so many stories and twists and turns, and we move from Samuel, who then anoints the first king of the nation, which is Saul, and Saul becomes King Saul. And this is a volatile period. I mean, Saul is up and down like a yo-yo. He's up one day, he's down the next. Mind you, I've lived a life like that because things happen that drag you down and you've got to get up. I remember a pastor saying once to me, we're either up or we're getting up. And I remember saying once, he said, how are you? I said, I'm okay under the circumstances. He said, what are you doing under the circumstances? You need to get on top of them. And Saul becomes jealous of David, because God's sick of Saul, of the king just forgetting God and doing things contrary to what he's been told. Eventually Samuel anoints David, but he hasn't become king straight away. And Saul pursues David. He gets jealous of him because the people sing the praises of David because he's killed more than Saul has. But rather seeing a good person with you is going to take you on the journey. And I learnt that good people are going to help take me on the journey and make my job a lot easier. But people get jealous of people that do things better than them. Don't be one of those. And rather than see David as a supporter, which he was, David wasn't prepared to move against Saul because he saw Saul as king anointed, as the king who's been anointed by God, and God's chosen at that time that he shouldn't take over as king. But Saul was jealous and he pursued David as an enemy. So there's some lessons in leadership, bad lessons, if you like, after Saul's anointed king. Saul's leadership didn't work in many places, and he tried to do that in taking over other nations. And the lesson is, if your leadership doesn't work, don't expect it to work somewhere else. So if you're a bad leader in a church or in a company or a department head and you move somewhere else, it's not going to change. You need to learn to be a good leader. The second thing that comes out here, trouble comes when leadership spend more time trying to keep their job than doing their job. And so often we want to look busy so that people think we're doing our job. But trust me, sooner or later, they see through it. And the better off is getting on and doing the job that you've been paid to do rather than trying to keep their job. The next thing is, God selects leaders based on their head, not their hands, and not their good looks as well. And human promotion, which looks at looks and looks at what people do with their hands, does not equal divine empowerment. So God selects leaders based on their head, not their hands. And he wants them to be leaders who know what to do, how to do it, and to actually make it happen. And then he will give the thoughts, he will give the works, he will give the direction and the input and everything that's needed. So where do you go to now with this whole issue of leadership? My decisions were, as I mentioned, were already up and down as a leader. And I had learned to try and become more consistent, because there are so many things come at us, so many people do things to us, other companies do things to us, well, it's the people in the companies. In churches, people split out because they've got a better idea or they got offended. Man, you only got to be around any business or church long enough and you get offended by something, which we shouldn't get offended by, but we do. So we've got to get around encouraging people. We've got to read positive things and we've got to practice consistency. And someone said, you just read or listen or watch too many positive things. I said, I've got so much negative stuff coming at me all day, every day, I can't even get enough positive stuff. But what I do is I focus on that and try to diminish the negative stuff. So there are so many podcasts, videos, audio, speakers and stuff that will speak positive into your life, and books. We need to get into those and learn and be encouraged and build up to go forward.